Peace.
Peace, man. Peace.
All right, let's go right into it.
Let's go.
All right. What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional, alongside my co-host.
Mikey Fever.
And this is a New Yorker's perspective with the
Yep.
brother, God, divine Allah.
Yes,
Wood.
yes, yes. Salute, salute. Peace,
Peace.
peace, peace.
Salute, brother. What's going on? I have some questions for you. You know, you agreed to doing this, and I really appreciate that. What you bring to the table for the people is a lot of knowledge, of a bunch of different things. I'm going to give you one. As far as organization, right? You ran for city council, right? Didn't you? You ran for city council, correct?
Well, that's peace.
Yes,
Yes. You
yes.
ran
Actually, twice.
twice. All right.
One more recently, and one about 12 years ago now. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
All right.
yes. We
Now,
actually skipped two of the terms.
all right. Now, as far as the city council, running for city council, what was your idea for running for city council? Like, what did you think could get done if you got into that position, into that seat?
Well, first of all, we understand politics in the hands of our enemy has never been good to us as a people. So those of us in the know, especially when you're looking at it from I just don't want to use it as like a game, but chess is actually a game. Though we say it's a game of discipline, it's a game of strategy and tactic. It was actually a chess move because I understood at that time here in the city of Trenton, there was a lot going on in the streets. The gang culture had taken over heavily here in Trenton. Bloods, Crips, even the Latin Kings. And a lot of those brothers, me as a Black Panther member, a lot of those brothers and sisters had a lot of respect and still do for the Black Panther. And it was actually a chess move, one, to move our piece or pieces in a better position on this chessboard. Trenton is the capital of New Jersey. A lot of what goes on throughout, or most of what goes on, all of what goes on throughout the state comes right here out of this little old city, 7 miles long and wide, or 7.2 miles long and wide. Very small city, 50+% our people. So who better to be in those positions than us? What pieces should we have in those positions to make some moves, not all the moves that need to be made, just some moves. We're talking about strategizing, striving to move our people forward. Everything is not going to come out of the movement per se, though we expect it to. Everything is not going to come out of what particular set you may rock with, whether it's religion, the church, whether it's a distinguished organization, Nation of Islam, and groups of that nature, the fraternities, the sororities. We don't have people in positions of power who understand what power means for us politically. We have people in positions of power who use politics to gain power and influence for themselves, but not necessarily for the people. So I took a page right out of the original Black Panther history and said, hey, we need real power for our people. And that's why I did it. Nothing more, nothing less. And we gained a lot of traction back in 2010, I think it was, when we ran. A lot of traction. We actually made it to the runoff. A runoff is when if you have 3, 4, 5 candidates, the last two who make it, none of the candidates got more than 50% or 49 plus 1% of the vote. So it had to come down to 2 candidates, myself and another candidate who was already in there as an incumbent, white woman. Unfortunately, in the blackest hood in the 4 wards of Trenton, north, south, east, and west ward. Like I said, it's a small community.
Brother, hold that thought. Can you come on and
Yes.
into the camera a little bit
Oh,
more?
okay,
Yeah,
I see. Yes, sir.
yeah.
Oh, because I'm the way I'm moving there. Okay, I got you. Right there.
Yep, that's good. That's good. All right.
All right. Yeah, so it made it to just me and her, a woman from uh, not Poland, Scotland, a Scottish woman who she actually has or had three names. She actually just retired from her seat. She was in there 3 terms. And like I said, a city where there's mostly our people who are, for the most part, politically incompetent. We only vote because grandmom voted, especially when it comes to Democrat. But when you're running on the local level in these nonpartisan elections, it doesn't matter what your party is. But the party actually owns, controls, and operates strategically behind the scenes, the Democratic Party here in this inner city, like most inner cities where our people are. You have the Democratic machine. Even if you have people that don't necessarily say what party they represent, they strategically hide behind the Democratic machine. And I ran as a Black Panther, Divine Allah. The name was on the ballot. And the brothers and sisters came out hard in the street, man, and it came down to a runoff. But as we know, the politics in this on this playing field is theirs. They know how to go in their bag, like we don't know how to go in our bag because we don't understand political power. They went in their bag and they tried to plaster it all out there. Hate monger, divine Allah, flag burner. They really came with it. And it didn't hurt us, but the masses of our people in this area, a lot of them are afraid of true Black, true political power that's spoken from a revolutionary perspective. So we didn't get in that time. I left alone for 2 terms and came back again the most recent campaign election season. And we did very well again. But understand, brothers, we at war. And I just had this conversation before we logged on a few hours ago. Certain areas where our people are, man, we are totally afraid to be in power in a real way, brothers. We are afraid. We don't want power. We want convenience. We want comfortability. We don't want power. We only want politics when it just gives us a sense of uh, acceptance, an illusion of inclusion. We don't want it when it strikes us to attention and say to say we really have to make moves and support this person who's in there now because he or she is really about us. You get places like Newark, New Jersey, where Ras Baraka is the mayor. He's the son of one of our foremost ancestors, Amiri Baraka, who basically birthed on the East Coast the conscious, radical Black movement. He birthed it. Anybody who was talking about anything, running for any type of seat, first Black this, first Black that on the East Coast, that came from Ras Baraka's father, Amiri Baraka, right here in the city of Newark. And for a lot of these folks to basically turn their back on that ancestor and only want, again, personal influence and personal power, and just to be scattered out here politically in front of our people, especially these young people, it's really sad to see, because you can go all around this country, you won't find other Ras Barakas, you won't find other Charles Barrons from New York City, Brooklyn, New York, him and his wife. You'll find one, the Chokwe Lumumba down in, I believe he's in Louisiana. You'll find one, or Jackson, Mississippi. You'll find one. And we're not even scattered as much anymore politically. So a lot of our people, we don't want real political power, man. Real political Black power. We just want an illusion of what we think is something that's going to move us forward. So that's why I ran, brother.
Now, I have a question. Do you think is that we don't want the political power or true power, or is it that we're ill-informed or misinformed?
It's both. It's both. I actually was on the board of elections prior to, again, it was strategic. I learned how to go through all the back windows, the side doors, come through the basement. I learned all the ways to get up in there, because our people say you got to get up in there any way you can, right? Maneuver our way. Dr. Khalid Abdul-Mohammed taught us to expand our base. That was a form of expanding our base. Let's strive to see if we can use that political arena to make some moves. We were already making moves anyway outside of that. But I do understand that, again, many of our people want to see somebody in those seats, but that somebody just wasn't someone who's truly about it when it comes to learning about resolutions, learning about policy, learning how legislation is put together and brought forth to a body, and letting our people see it from A to B, from B to C, from C to D, all the way down to Z. We want to go from A to Z overnight just because we have somebody in office. But I'm really dedicated to bringing the information to our people. Like we learned from Charles Barron. If we know that there's certain things coming up when it comes to laws and things that's going to affect us politically, things that's going to affect us financially, things that's going to affect us socially, as a leader, as a representative, it is your duty, divine duty, to let the people know this is what's going on. This is why the taxes are what they are. This is why the police are doing what they're doing. None of these representatives come out and give that type of information to the people. So, one, ill-informed, and two, we claim we want it, but when it's direct, when it's hardcore, when it's pro-black, and I ran as that type of candidate and still got good numbers, people at the end of the day, our lessons teach us we love the devil because the devil gives us nothing. So it proved twice. So is it still on the radar? Just a little bit, but I'm not going to lose no sleep because we're still doing the work outside of that arena. But it's a very important arena. We cannot overlook it because politics does affect our lives one way or another.
I wanted to add something. Like, I first and foremost, I'd like to salute you for stepping in for the people, for giving them proper representation. Because a lot of people tend to pander and not want to stand behind their principles and what they want to bring to the people.
Yes, sir.
And they tend to, as you said, mislead them, misinform them, and give them try not to put the responsibility on them for wanting to engage into the politics, because some of our people just figure like a politician will do everything for you, and they miss the key point that they actually work for you. So it's like it takes the communities to bring the action, the people to put the power in their hands. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So I like I respect that for you doing that.
Yes,
now I want to ask about the demographic and the demographics in Newark. So what percentage is more European? What percentage is more, African people?
I think some of the numbers now are more even when it comes to Black and Latino. It's very high for those two. You have a large, I think it's a Portuguese base, and a few others Indian base that is coming up in Newark. But down here in Trenton, it's heavily Black and Latino.
Oh, really? Really? Okay. So because I'm thinking that the numbers, I'm thinking
people were surprised when they saw, how can this be? Especially for the person that's in there now is actually a white transgender who came out of nowhere. It'd be like somebody falling out the sky saying, I'm going to run in the North Ward against Divine Allah and against another elder of mine who ran. He's been running since I was a young teenager. He didn't win, but I've known him to be on the front line for a lot of the issues that were going on. Something that was going to go on with the selling of the administration that handles the Trenton Waterworks. He was on the front line. He's actually a retired chemist for the state of New Jersey. Real good brother, real elder. Saw my growth and development in the conscious world, saw me coming up as a Black Panther. He respected me. One time he pulled out and ran at large to not run on the ward level to allow me to run. My numbers were very, very large, man. And he saluted me. But this time he wanted to run again locally. So it was a bunch of us, myself, two other brothers, and this one transgender white guy who came out of nowhere. And here we are. When you break those numbers up, because we don't have no voters block, that's what the science is to the numbers. When you have 3 Black men running for a ward that the numbers are already broken up because of the disenfranchisement and what they call redistricting. They actually pulled my legs out from under me by redistricting the area that I would have gotten 99% of the votes from. They had a private meeting, really what we call in one of those midnight late hour meetings, the state, because of what was going on statewide with Republican versus Democratic numbers. They had a private meeting to say, let's redistrict that area because this young man, Divine Allah, is running again. Now, I'm not just saying that, brothers. I'm not just saying that. I was low on the radar when I mentioned to a few people that I might be putting my foot back out there in the political arena. And all of a sudden, a meeting was had, and where I live at, where I grew up at, Donnelly Homes, Divine Land Projects, it's called District 10. That's where, brothers, 100% of the vote would have been mine. They took that district and redistricted to another part of the town where now that's not in the North Ward no more. That's considered the West Ward. Is literally directly across the street from my house. But they just took what they call those lines, that little line, and chopped the line up and took all of those numbers that would have been mine. And now it ends up in somebody in another ward. Everybody was surprised. So again, the games they play politically, they strategic because we don't have no power again. We don't know how to address that. We only address it hooping and hollering. We don't address it by forming voters blocks. We don't address it by getting with the Black business owners who are institutions in communities like Trenton and Newark, brothers and sisters who've been in business for 20 years, 30 years, those Black pastors who have a sense of influence.
Exactly.
But they allow, again, the enemy to come wave trinkets in front of them and say, we don't want that one in there. We don't want those in there. We don't want that one in there. And they promise things like y'all know they do. They speak with forked tongues. I don't have anything to promise but true inspiration, information, and liberation for our people, and being a dedicated representative that you're supposed to have in office. A lot of our people, they'll smile, brother, I support you, but come election day, that machine comes out there and they play with the machines. We actually had voting machines that ended up with ballots in them back at the warehouse.
Wow.
Election day, all of a sudden, Mercer County, where I'm at, somehow the electricity goes out, the machine's not working. People had to put in manual ballots. Nobody was ready for it. Nobody was prepared for it. It got crazy, man. So when they talk about this stuff on a national level, that presidential level, that we don't have an effect on anyway. But when they talk about the fraud that took place, believe me, brothers, it's real, especially when they know that this wave is coming.
All right, let me ask
But
you
again,
this question.
without power, you can't stop the wave.
It's economics as well plays a part.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk about this, right? So as far as like the population, it says here, I Googled it, Trenton demographics.
Yes.
And in 2021, there were 2.74 times more Black or African American non-Hispanic residents, 42.5K people in Trenton, New Jersey, than any other race or ethnicity. So basically, it's what you want to say, quote unquote, Black area, right?
Yes, sir. No doubt. Yes,
So
sir.
now, so is it the people in the area that, like I said, are misinformed? So I would say maybe a better solution would be to have like a political education program set up in
Yes,
the
sir.
area all year
Yes, sir.
round,
Yes, sir.
so that they're better informed.
Brother.
Exactly.
We did it all, brother. I don't believe we missed. Matter of fact, I know we didn't miss a step. We was doing political education a year and a half prior to every Wednesday. Political education, teaching the people. That's our lane. We laid it out.
Yeah.
But again, you also dealing You're up against a machine that our people do not understand. You just mentioned it's economics.
Mm-hmm.
The few black businesses that we have here, the few black institutions that we have here, y'all know you're dealing with the issue of competition. I went and got with 3 of the strongest in the area. Brothers who are African centered, brothers who came from the movement per se. They understood and they sat down and they got with the other 2 candidates, the other 2 older candidates denied, the other 2 men. We set them down and said, brothers, okay, you have influence. The other brother who's running, you have influence. If the election was held tonight, which one of us would come out on top? They both agreed that it would be me. They both agreed. The meeting was over. They still came out with their own political material when we all could have just formed the bloc and this transgender would have been lost. But when you break up the numbers, no matter how educated the people are, when you break up the numbers through redistricting and you don't have a power base and you don't have a block of voters that are going to say, we're voting for Divine because this business is for him, this church is for him, the streets are for him. Most elections are lost on the local level because of issues like that, brothers. Our people are really not together politically, especially when you have an area like Trenton and Newark, a lot of other inner cities where churches have a lot more influence. And the churches are heavily tied to the political arena. Even if they cannot say it publicly, once they say they're going with the other candidate, it's an uphill battle. So
That's a
that's
fact.
mainly what happened. I understood what Amos Wilson talked about when he said, or Malcolm when he said, we got to form voters blocks. So I purposely set with the elders, those brothers who were running prior to the election. Brothers, why put your hat out there? You're going to take numbers from me. You know you ain't. What's the deal? We know they already redistricted. Why are we going to go against each other? Why cancel each other out? And this person came up in here and they won because of that.
That's economics.
So the democratic machine, they understood. Oh, they fighting amongst each other. They saw that a mile away. And then they sprinkled their little cronies out there. And here you are in a majority black city, a majority black ward, a white transgender that basically popped out of the clouds. And to this day, I can walk out my door and people complain to me like I'm in the seat. You don't even know who the person is who's your ward representative because these people don't care if you know them or not. But you know me, so you knew if you would have voted. Even if you did vote, understand there were games being played, and let's see what happened next time, if there is a next time. But our people have to see it from all the angles, not just one angle, brother.
So it's an illusion. It's all an illusion because, as Ron was saying earlier, and tied to the economics, it's that you out there educating people about politics. But a lot of our people tend to vote with emotions. They vote with emotions, what they've been told. They don't question what their mother has taught them, what their father has taught them.
Yes,
And you could. It's like Elijah said. You could bring them a glass of water, a clear water, and a glass of of muddy water. They will drink out of desperation. You bring them a clear glass, they'll question it. Like they're like,
go ahead.
They'll question it. Like, is he sure it's pure? But then it's the face behind it, and it's also it's economic in the sense that if you notice, for every political year, say presidential or local politics, our people always tend to be disenfranchised because of lack of information. But it's mostly economics, being that other groups don't have the same fears or the worries because they have a power, like say a power-based source of community work. When they dollar circulate their community for X amount of hours before leaving or days, we always looking for the outside savior to help us.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
We have that issue because we're so, as you said, we're so divided through religious belief.
You cannot forget, brothers, the oh, go ahead.
No, it's a religious belief, theology. That's it.
You cannot forget great grandma was a Democrat, grandma was a Democrat. nephew a Democrat, the new grandson that's born is a Democrat. I've seen our people basically walk into the election area, brother. You trying to help them, ma'am, come over this. They'll cut you off. I don't want to hear nothing. Just tell me where the Democrats at. Ma'am, well, you know Bugs Bunny's name is on there as a Democrat today. Mickey Mouse. Ma'am, you know they just have a blank dot right there. I don't care. I just want to vote Democrat. This is our people's attitude when they're going into those election booths.
Exactly.
So it's nothing but a glorified shower curtain. I'm the one that set it up on election day before when I wasn't on the actual ballot. I would work and see people coming to the polls, and our people don't want to. I don't care if you had, you know, your strongest representative, if they had the word Republican next to their name, and the people knew that was a strong representative for them, we're not going to vote for them. It's unfortunate. We'll vote for Bugs Bunny before we vote for someone who we know is going to be dedicated, determined, and disciplined, and not caught up in all the foolishness that goes on politically, brother. I've seen it. Seen it, brothers. It's sad on one side, but again, our people sometimes got to be taken through the ringer, man. Like we talked about before, when it comes to unity, our people don't want real unity. People don't want real freedom. Our people want comfortability.
Confrontational for no reason.
So what do you say is the solution? Because, you know, we just got off a podcast with brother Sharif, and we were talking about the issues between the Moors and their conflict, and it seems like this spell that our people are under, it just affects every organization, nation, school of thought, community. It's like we're brainwashed for our own demise. So what would you say? So what would you say would be the solution for that? Because that brainwashing is so deeply ingrained in our subconscious mind or unconscious mind, whatever term brothers use. What would you say the solution would be for that?
On one side, I'll say, as Dr. Khalid Muhammad would say, revolution is the only solution. Revolution, complete constructive change. Change, redirect our approach per se, and reel in who we know are those who are really dedicated to the total liberation and salvation of our people. And then from that, we forge small pockets and put people out there who are going to represent in these hoods that most of us remain in. It's not like we're going back to the continent. It's not like we're going to areas where we know there's large numbers of us who can make power moves. But in these local areas, we can really make some power moves if we reeled in those of us who are really sure about wanting freedom. But how can you really want freedom if you ain't right self? You're not doing any real reading, researching, studying, and applying for self.
Yep.
There's no way you're going to do it if you have a family. If you may be doing it, but your wife or your mate is not into it. Your children are not into it. You got some of us in the movement. We might be on it as an individual, but our wives, our girlfriends, our children are in their own worlds. They don't even want it nothing to do with this stuff, and vice versa. So that is a major piece of it. And then you get out here in the worlds of us who are being educated outside of the junior, middle, and high school. Once they go to college, if we force them into those worlds, they're coming back with a whole new, different attitude about life and community. They don't want nothing to. So we have to reel in folks who are sure and certain and have clarity of purpose of why we even say what we say when it comes to our blackness, our indigenous nationhood, our nationality. We got to reel in the folks who are totally sure and begin to build more from there. If not, again, it's that hamster wheel, brothers.
As you said to galvanize, get the people that really want to do the work, right?
That's
It's
it.
something, as the God said from the Father. He always say, focus on the babies. I think it's working with the youth from ages like 16 to like 25.
Oh,
That's pretty
whew,
much it.
whew. I'm
That's
going.
it.
I'm going younger, brother. I'm going
Yeah,
younger
yeah.
because what
'Cause
we up against now, that age bracket that you talked about. Again, you talking about the
yeah, I know.
dysfunctional family situation. 16 to 25. That generation right now are locked into social media. And you know what social media is doing when it
Controls
comes
them.
to politics, when it comes to uh, the socialization, when it comes
Mhm.
to the movement. So I'm saying, brothers, in one sense, we may have to just get up out of here and say, hey, everybody, y'all, let's make this call real quick, see if everybody got it. Let's make this move over here. Let's go over to Madagascar, man, and just start over. Let's go over to somewhere Mozambique and let's just start over. In one sense, I'm really beginning to see that clearly, brother. It's not happening here. We really in the belly of the beast. We're inside of that area where we're being uh, fully digested, crushed up inside this belly and those intestines, and we being pooped out daily, brother. Serious. We're gonna have to start this thing over. It's falling anyway.
And
So
it's
we're
true.
gonna have to start this thing over, man. Get somewhere with our wives if we have them. Get somewhere with true and living brothers and sisters and younger people who are not caught up. It's got to be a whole revamp, complete constructive change.
Mhm.
Revolution ain't pretty. It's got to be complete constructive change. Are we still caught up in fighting over money? Are we still caught up in, you know, the drinking and the partying? Or if we still caught up in that type of stuff,
We lost.
we gone, man. We gone. Some of us we couldn't even hold out when it comes to football and basketball and the Super Bowl. We couldn't even hold out. Now, not saying we don't need to enjoy ourselves and all that, but
Exactly.
we on the battlefield and we worrying about if LeBron is better than Jordan. Come on, man. Come
I
on.
remember. I heard an elder in the street one time. This older guy. This is somewhere. This is in Bed-Stuy by that old theater. He said, "We gonna start running down on these rappers, man. Stop poisoning the baby's mind." He's like, "They gotta start
Go
holding them
ahead.
accountable." He said,
Go
"Start
ahead.
running down on these rappers in the street."
Go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
like, it's real. He said, like the Panthers. He said used to run up on drug dealers in the community, but you're not doing that here. Like.
You remember, I don't know if you brothers saw the movie The Mac.
I can't remember
You
that. I
talking
can't.
about from back in the days, like the black
Back in the
exploitation?
day, came out in the 70s. Yes,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was black exploitation.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah, yeah.
true story. True story about that movie, something you just mentioned. There was a
Mhm,
scene in that movie where the Mac, who was Max Julian, he was the head pimp at the time over there in
mhm,
California, and his brother
mhm,
was the head of the revolutionary movement, the Panther per se, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I remember that.
His brother, there's a classic scene where him and his brother were sitting down and his brother was like, yo, I got to move on you. You making it bad. You destroying the community. Our women, you got the drugs out here. And the Mac character said to him, man, don't you know in order to get rid of the pimps, the pushers, actually LL Cool J had that snippet on one of his albums. I can't remember which album, but it was a
mhm.
snippet, like a little uh, snippet in between songs. And he said,
Yeah.
to get rid of the pimps and the pushers and the drug dealers, you got to make this happen. You got to deal with the police and the judges. And they basically had like a standoff, an intellectual standoff, and they basically understood. He was like, well, listen, this better not affect our family. If you remember, their mom ended up getting hurt,
Mm.
but it was the police behind it. But they made it seem like it was a street move. So these two brothers end up going at each other. Now,
Wow.
real life, the original Black Panther Party, when the movie was being filmed, went to the set daily. If y'all not hiring any of our brothers for security, y'all ain't filming.
Mm,
They were shutting this filming down, and that was happening a lot out there.
mhm,
So that scene, from what I heard, there was a argument on the set, and one of the directors or the filmers at the time let the camera run while the argument was going on, and they
mhm,
took what the argument really was about and put it in that movie.
See,
The
I
old
respect
black
that.
exploitation, that scene, a variation of that scene was put in the movie. So somebody behind the scenes understood how important that conversation or that debate was about. Yo, this is our community. If y'all ain't helping us with our food and breakfast program, get them cameras up out of here.
That's true. We got to start doing that because people will say, "Oh, that's even worse than what the police are doing in the community." No, I think it's time for us to regulate our community because we had that. That was happening last year in Haiti, but they stopped it when this bloc movement, right?
Yes, sir.
And people
Yes, sir.
complain
Yes, sir.
about it, like, "Oh, how you attacking the games?" Because sometimes something that's not regulated correctly could spin out of control. But I think
Yes.
we need to start doing that in these streets, especially with these young kids becoming young kids and adults getting hit by stray bullets.
Go
I
ahead.
think it's time for us men. Like if the day it happened, I'm all for it. Start regulating these streets. Like if any gang shootout take place in this community, we're gonna deal with you one way or the other.